We're officially recording, which means class is officially started. I appreciate everyone for showing up. We have 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 people here. I know we changed the date. And I really appreciate you guys, so I can make that meeting tomorrow. There may be some more of that because everything political is done on Tuesday nights. This next class coming up, I actually have 3 classes, so there's going to be some overlap into Mondays and Tuesdays, and it's going to be a little bit of a mess, but I think we'll make it through. So this is the final week, week 4 of business communications. That is 12/12 of 22, so almost Christmas. I hope everyone's ready because I am 100 not. If anyone has suggestions for what I should buy my wife, please put it in the messages because I have no idea what to get her. But yeah, of course, Autumn, she's showing off. Show off. So
I have to be ready ahead of time because of work, and both of my kids have birthdays within the 10 days after Christmas. And my nephew that I'm raising, his birthday is 2 days after Christmas.
nice.
So I try to just get it all done by like the first part of December, and then I can just focus on everything else.
See, it is stacked against us because it starts on Halloween. Fragrances, jewelry, clothes, shoes. Get her Morgan Wallen tickets. I got my mom. I don't even know what a Morgan Wallen is. But it sounds like something I would probably hate, so she'd probably love it. Oh, he's a country singer. Gotcha. So it starts on Halloween. Then like 12 days later is my son's birthday. A couple weeks later is Thanksgiving. A couple of weeks later is my oldest grandson's birthday. The next day is my daughter's birthday. Then like 3 weeks later is Christmas. So from Halloween on, it's just massage Hamilton. Oh, I'd love to go see Hamilton. She also likes Wicked. I don't know if anybody's seen that. That is always awesome.
I looked up the
Oh,
ticket prices because I got a email from Ticketmaster or something like that, and they're doing a lot of showings, and the tickets, the cheapest ones are $49, and they go.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean that's the cheap seats, but you know, when you know all the words to it, you don't need to be all up close on it.
Right. Also, Adria says her birthday is on Sunday, so happy birthday. We're glad for you. So everybody has a birthday in December, except for my youngest grandson and I. Mine's in June and his is in July. So okay, so we didn't have any problems with the work last week. Once again, I am going to start with, like I always do, if you have not done your discussions, please, for God's sakes, it is dragging your grade down. Or if you haven't finished your discussions, haven't done your peer replies, then you're only getting partial points. So go into week 2 and last week's and finish up, and then shoot me a quick email. Let me know, just in case. I check them, but I don't want to miss them, so let me know that you went in and did your peer replies or whatever, so I can get those points to you. It's just, like I said, hate for you guys to leave points on the table, especially on something that it's just really important. It's just, I can't express, it's 25% of your grade. So those of you guys who are sitting on in the 70s range, you only got 1/3 of your points for your for your discussions. It's leaving 1/3 of 25, so you're leaving, could be 16 points. So that you go from a C to a high B or low A really quickly, just by finishing those up. So Just like I said, I can't stand there over you, make you do them, but man, I can be a nudge every single week until you get tired of hearing me complain about it. All right, so since I don't see anybody with any questions on anything last week, let's look at this week's discussion. Maybe. You have to be smarter than the equipment you're working with, and I don't think I am making the grade today. All right, everyone should be able to see my screen too right now. Once again, I have to readjust everything whenever I share my screen. And let's look at this final discussion real quick. Okay, so watch the video below and discuss and elaborate on all the presentation principles presented in this video, and how would you incorporate them into your present style. Then you can comment and add informative content to your 2 peer posts to elaborate in discussion with your peers. And remember the 300 words minimum for the main discussion post, and 100 words minimum for each peer post. So, and this is the Steve Jobs presentation. Steve Jobs was good at a lot of things, and this was one of them, especially, when you have a doggone thing. And make sure you guys can hear my sound. Share sound, there we go. Especially when, he was coming up with these new and innovative products that we hadn't seen before. We seem to take, here's that for AirPods. I'm not a big fan of the AirPods, but I found for some people like me is the ones you stick in your ears always make my ears hurt after a little bit of time, especially my left ear, who I think is a little bit smaller than the other ones. And then like Andrew's got the big one sitting here. I have a set of gaming headphones, but they get kind of hot and sweaty. So the ones I have here, which I'm not being paid for this, are the bone conduction headphones. So they don't actually go in your ears, and they just sit on here, and they work on the same way that you hear your own voice, which is it uses your jawbone to conduct sound into your ears. They're very comfortable, very great. I talk more about my audio tools, but Sennheiser doesn't pay me either. Okay, nice, Andrew. These, what is the brand? I don't remember the brand now, but they're really awesome. If you've never used conduction ones, they are really cool. You can listen to things and still hear things going on around you. And they also came with a little foam earplug. So if you really want to immerse yourself, you can put some earplugs in, and then you can't hear anything. And the sound is 100% great. So that's enough of me not getting paid to advertise to somebody else.
Anyone who has watched a Steve Jobs keynote will tell you he is one of the most extraordinary speakers in corporate America.
Who does the best job of that in the world?
While most presenters simply convey information, Jobs inspires. I'm Carmine Gallo, and today I'll walk you through several key techniques that Steve Jobs uses to electrify his audience. They're elements you can adopt in your very next presentation.
Welcome to Macworld 2008. We've got some great stuff for you. There's clearly something in the air today.
With those words, Jobs opened Macworld 2008, setting the theme for his presentation and hinting at the major announcement of the day, the launch of the ultra-thin MacBook Air. Whether it's a new notebook or the iPhone, Jobs unveils a single headline that sets the theme.
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Once you identify a theme, make sure it's clear and consistent throughout the presentation. Think of a staff meeting as a presentation. So let's say you're a sales manager introducing a new software tool to help your team generate, track, and share sales leads. You might kick off your meeting this way. Good morning. Thanks for coming. I know you'll be really excited about this. Today we make it easier for you to make your quota. That's the headline. Easier to make quota. It's memorable, and it sets the direction for the rest of your meeting. It gives your audience a reason to listen.
So I've got 4 things I'd like to talk about with you today. So let's get started.
Steve Jobs always provides an outline for his presentation and then verbally opens and closes each section with a clear transition in between. Here's an example.
So that's time capsule, a perfect companion to leopard, and that's the first thing I wanted to share with you this morning.
The point is, make it easy for your listeners to follow your story. Your outline will serve as guideposts along the way. You'll also notice that during his presentations, Jobs uses words like extraordinary, amazing, and cool. He is passionate, enthusiastic, and it shows.
Incredible, unbelievable, amazing, awesome, extraordinary year for Apple.
You know, your audience wants to be wowed, not put to sleep. Too many people fall into this presentation mode. It's stiff, it's formal, it lacks pizzazz. We, your listeners, are giving you permission to have fun and to be excited about your company, your product, or your service. If you're not passionate about it, we're not going to be. Remember, Jobs isn't selling hardware. He's selling an experience. If you offer numbers and statistics, make them meaningful.
We have sold 4 million iPhones to date. If you divide 4 million by 200 days, that's 20,000 iPhones every day on average.
Numbers don't mean much unless they're placed in context. Managers, connect the dots for your listeners. Recently, I worked with a company that launched a 12-gigabyte memory card. 12 gigabytes! That number doesn't mean much to most people, so we put it into context. We said that's enough memory to listen to your music while traveling to the moon and back. Now, 12 gigs means something to me. Make numbers meaningful. One of the most effective elements of a Steve Jobs presentation is that they are easy on the eyes. His presentations are visual and simple. While most speakers fill their slides with mind-numbing data and text and charts, Jobs does just the opposite. He uses very little text and usually 1, maybe 2 images per slide. You see, you want to paint a picture for your audience without overwhelming them. Inspiring presentations are short on bullet points and big on visuals. If you really want your presentation to pop, treat it like a show with ebbs and flows, themes, and transitions. Jobs includes video clips, demonstrations, and guests. He also has a knack for dramatic flair, and it's very effective. For example, when introducing the MacBook Air, Jobs drew cheers by opening a manila interoffice envelope and holding the laptop out for everyone to see.
This is the new MacBook Air, and you can get a feel for how thin it is.
What is the one memorable moment of your presentation? Identify it ahead of time, then build up to it.
With a little help from our friends, everything will work today.
And finally, rehearse, rehearse, and rehearse some more.
Let me show you how easy that is now.
Steve Jobs makes it look easy because he spends hours rehearsing. He cannot pull off an intricate presentation with video clips and demonstrations and outside speakers without practice. The result, a presentation that is perfectly synchronized and looks, yes, effortless. Now, the average business person does not have the resources to create a Steve Jobs extravaganza, but you do have time to rehearse. The greatest presenters do it, and so should you. Oh, and one more thing. At the end of most presentations, Jobs adds to the drama by saying, and one more thing.
One last thing.
He then adds a new product or a feature, sometimes just introduces a band. This not only heightens the excitement, it also leaves your audience feeling they've been given an added bonus. The point is, Steve Jobs approaches each presentation as an event, a production with a strong opening, product demonstrations in the middle, and a strong conclusion. And yes, even an encore, that one more thing. I wish you a dazzling presentation.
For more information, go to bnet.com.
That was actually a quick 6 minutes. I think he did a pretty good job of presenting how to present to us without it, seeming drug on. And that's one of the things, and I know we fall into it here, especially in an academic environment, is it seems to drone on. It's just in these slides, there's so many bullet points, and I always say I hate those, but sometimes you're just kind of stuck with what you have. But yeah, Steve Jobs was really good at it. I remember when he announced the iPod, or was it the iPod? Yeah, I think it was the iPod. I don't remember if they called it an iPod back then, to be honest. But he pulls the thing out of his pocket and says you can put 2,000 songs on this thing, and that was a big deal. We'd never seen anything like that before. And for someone who grew up on records and cassette tapes and used to go to the music store and buy cassette tape singles, which was awesome. And then CDs came out, and that was just the next thing, and on and on and on. Does anyone ever seen the hopefully we've seen the movie, what was it? It was Wayne's World. You remember Wayne's World? Okay. Remember having the CD player sitting on the dash of the car and it would play? Yes, sir. It's just that single's nice. Good movie. Yeah. I actually had it. Then you had a little cassette tape with a wire hanging out of it that you plugged in and then plugged into your CD player, your Discman. Wow. And you would go ahead and do that. Do I need to? There we go. Everybody was looking at that, looking at my background. But so that was, that was a real thing. That was a real thing. And so, and I don't think if he wouldn't have been able to market, I don't know, one of those two, if he wasn't able to market these products effectively, I don't think they would have moved forward the way they have. The first iPhone, the first smartphone, which I believe was the iPhone, wasn't it? Anyway, because that was the first time that you had this. I remember BlackBerry. Oh, the BlackBerry. Loved my BlackBerry. But you had a phone, that you could do everything on. You go on the internet, you could send emails, you could watch videos. I mean, suddenly you were just, cut loose. But with the Nokia, what like was it 5150? I think it was a BlackBerry. Okay, we're gonna look it up then, guys. We will find out what was the first smartphone. Because now I have stepped in it and I need to figure it out. Okay, now, okay. Well, they're saying that the first smartphone was an IBM in 1992, but we're not going to go with that. Wow, that is an ugly thing. first touchscreen back to 1994. Wow. In 1992, 3, 4, I had the great big brick phone. So that was a whole thing. You could go to Sam's, is where I went to Sam's warehouse, and they'd always have a kiosk set up, and you had your choice. You either had the bag phone or the brick phone, and I took the brick phone. So we're gonna see if they give us the first cell phone. Oh, wow. Flip phones. Okay, come on. Oh, it's not a really clear answer. That's a little weird. If you ever get a chance to look it up, there's not a clear answer here. But like I said, and I remember like the Nokias, whoever said Nokia or the Razor. Razor was an awesome phone. The thing was indestructible.
Unless you dropped it in the bathtub while giving a child a bath. That
Well, yeah,
destroyed
there's
Razor.
that. The Razor was a great one. The one with the slide-out keyboard, my kids had those. Who mentioned that? Jessica. Okay. That was one of the first ones my kids got, the little keyboard slid out. That phone was kind of garbage though. So, but then, like I said, where would we be if we weren't able to market these things? That is funny. Oh my gosh. So that is that is strange. That is strange. Let's get into some chapter 12. I would like to look at here. Come on, computer. Why are you so hard-headed? Because we could sit here and talk about cell phones all night, but I don't think it would do us any good. Business presentation. So, you saw how he said you try to get their attention, you break each section up, you give an outline, and all that's really good. And BlackBerry, loved my BlackBerry. Like I said, BlackBerry was so awesome. It's one of those I never even wanted to give up. Now phones are, I don't want to say relatively cheap, but you can get a decent smartphone for a few $100s. I think I'm still rocking the Samsung Note 10. So it's a good phone. Good phone. Although I did have to send it back to have some work done on it, but hey, it's all good. Note 9. Is that the great big one, Andrew? The 9? Yeah. I've got the smaller one with the little curved screen around the side. Okay. I wanted a big one. Although, I did lose my stylus. I have to order a new stylus. So, and on these business presentations, it's many times it's still a get in and get out. You want to get in, make your point, and get out. You don't want to bore people with, like they said, numbers or so many slides or everything else. Okay, so by the time we're done here, we're going to look at business presentation that accomplishes the speaker's goals and meets the audience's needs. Organize and develop the 3 parts of an effective presentation. Select, design, and use presentation visuals effectively. Deliver speeches with increasing confidence, and discuss strategies for presenting an alternate delivery situation, such as culturally diverse audiences, team, and distance presentations. Now, when you do, and I know he mentioned that in the video, Apple's first smartphone was 2007. Nice. You get in that presentation mode, you're stiff, it's like this, and that's I think that's a big turnoff for your audience as well. people are looking to, you know, they don't want to see you up there stiff with your numbers and your charts and your graphs. And you want to get, like I said, get in, especially when you're like a sales presentation, get in, make your point, make it exciting, and get out. And then you can open it up for questions and answers. I know, and I love teaching. I got to actually go and teach CLD the other day in actual class because poor Nathan was sick. And I forgot how much I missed actually interacting with people in front of you in the same room. That was pretty awesome. And I usually stay pretty relaxed. I'm one of those guys, you know, that like sit on a table or do, you know, some of that silly stuff because, you know, I don't want to sit up there and just be droning on and on and on. Business presentations, they're a means of exchanging information for decision making and policy development. We have oral briefings, which are informal presentations and presented with little time for planning and developing. Brief update on a project requested during a meeting, and it could be requested impromptu. So, hey, Autumn, go ahead and I know while we're here, go ahead and tell us about, you know, whatever project and how we're going. And always hate being put in on spot in a meeting because you're really not prepared. You're there for another purpose. Okay, and speaking of purposes, identify your purpose, determine what you want to accomplish. Axtell, author of the book Do's and Taboos of Public Speaking, provides mechanisms for condensing a presentation into an achievable purpose. You want to develop a phrase, a single thought that the audience needs to take with them from the presentation. Audience should be in a position to describe the central purpose of the presentation. If they walk away and they really don't understand what you were trying to talk about, that may be a problem, right? Questions that need to be answered. Who is the audience and who requested the presentation? Why is this topic important to the audience? What will the audience do with the information presented? And what environmental factors affect the presentation? And once again, we had, because I don't know if I should be, you know, actually telling this, but we had someone come in and speak to the faculty of the school a few weeks ago. And gosh, it was so hard to watch sometimes. It was just, you really didn't get any of these things. You didn't really get the central theme, and it went on and on and on for, you know, hours. After we left, we all sat around and talked at some point. We said, you know, we just spent 4 hours watching something we could have done in 45 minutes effectively. Now I understand they were there for a higher purpose to help us with motivation and you know, some teaching education on some teaching tips, but at the same time, there's being respectful with someone's time, you know, and doing something in 4 hours that could have been done in an hour, I don't think is respecting your audience properly. You know, you got to know who your audience is and what they need and what they want and need out of the presentation. I think people sometimes take it way too far. Organizing the content, effective and basic presentation structure, first introduced by Dale Carnegie. Carnegie Hall. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Steps include an introduction, the body, and closing, right? And usually, you know, many times I try to follow the same process you do when you're writing a paper, which is tell them what you're going to say it, and tell them what you said. Okay, your goals in the introduction are to capture the attention, involve the audience. Then you want to establish a rapport. I know when I show Jordan Peterson videos, if you notice, there's definitely a rapport with his audience. Okay, he's picking someone out and he's speaking to people specifically, it seems like, in the audience, as well as speaking to everyone else, and he makes that work. presenting the purpose statement, and that's going with a previewing the points that will be developed. So once again, we saw that in our little presentation, how Steve Jobs does it. Developing the body. Some of the techniques for that are provide support in an easily understandable form, provide relevant statistics, use quotes from prominent people, use interesting anecdotes, use jokes and humor appropriately, use presentation visuals, and encourage audience involvement. Now, once again, sometimes that goes into, who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to, let's say you're giving when I was teaching CLD, we were talking about, it was our finance week. I don't know if anybody remembers that. And so it just so happened that I have a bachelor's in finance. And so it's real easy for me to get in the weeds with lingos and move off, into the weeds with a lot of things. And I have to draw that back because I'm not talking to, at that point, finance professionals. I'm talking about students who were trying to give a base knowledge of certain financial concepts. We're not going deep into whatever it is. And so know your audience, know their level of education in the subject, maybe not even just their level of education generally, but their level of education in the subject. And how are you just going to spouting off industry or specific lingo that nobody really understands? Because I've seen that happen as well. Quotes from prominent people, as long as they work, anecdotes, as long as they work, jokes and humor, to break it up. Being funny is hard. If I'm ever, I'm only funny on accident, it seems. I'm never funny on purpose. And encourage audience involvement. Get people, you can sometimes get it back and forth. You can point it out to people. Like I said, I try to do that here a little bit, but once again, this the new online way of doing things comes with its ups and downs. The ups is everybody gets to sit in their living room. We get to all do this together. Some of the downs are, well, you don't have to have your camera on. You don't have to, give me any feedback. And part of, like I said, what makes it so difficult is, of course, I got Andrew and Autumn here, which I do appreciate you guys. And then I have 12 other people who all I see is a name or a picture. And so without that feedback, it's really audience feedback. It's really difficult to know where to take the presentation, where we're going with this. So sometimes you flounder, and it's okay to do that. It just, it's one of the more difficult things of giving a presentation via Zoom, because when people aren't when you can't get that specific feedback, then like I said, it makes it really difficult. And then you have issues that anybody remember the Jeffrey Toobin story? What he did? Okay, you have to look that one up. But he did some real. He thought he thought his camera was off and he was a journalist, and they were having a meeting. I don't remember if it was New York Times, Washington Post, whatever it was. He thought his camera was off, and he decided he needed a little stress reliever during the middle of their meeting, and his camera was actually on. So some things people will never be able to unsee. Okay, closing guidelines. Commit the time and energy needed to develop a creative, memorable conclusion. Tie the closing to the introduction to strengthen unity in the presentation. Use transition words that indicate movement from the body to the closing. Practice closing to deliver it without stumbling, and smile and stand back to accept the audience's applause. Now, especially when you're speaking in front of a whole lot of people, like I said, when I've done like um, really large groups, and you notice the guy in the video earlier was talking about practicing. Even if you know and you feel really comfortable, and that you can never practice too much, you want to be really, really, really comfortable. So just in case you do get in front of everybody and you get a little anxious or scared because there's a lot of people looking at you, listening to you, you've practiced it so much that, you know, that training you've done for yourself takes over. And always, one of the examples I use of that is when we went to jump school there in Fort Benning. Jump school is 3 weeks. Now you don't actually jump out of a plane until your 3rd week. You spend the first 2 weeks all day, every day, from early until late, training to jump out of a plane. Now, and the reason is you train over and over and over and over and over again until that jump becomes second nature. So when you're finally in the plane and the light turns green and they say go, then without even thinking, you go out, even though that fear and that apprehension is already there. And so that's the kind of practice you need to do. I remember we actually, and I don't remember if it's Panama or Honduras. This was 1989, December of 89, when I was going to jump school. They had taken all our planes for, I said, don't remember if it's Honduras or Panama. It was so long ago. So we did, Monday came around, we didn't have any planes to jump. Tuesday came around, Wednesday, and you had to do 5 jumps before you could graduate. And you had to do them that 3rd week. And so finally on Thursday, they got a couple planes. I did my first jump on a Thursday. Some people didn't even get to do them. Then on Friday, I had to do 4 jumps to graduate, and some people had to do 5 jumps. And so, and on the first jump on Thursday, I was supposed to be the first guy in the door. You know, when they count you off, I was supposed to be the first guy in the door. The guy in the group ahead of us, the last guy got held back because they were a little slower jumping. So I was actually second guy. So I just remember at this point, he's standing in the door. We're waiting for the light to turn green and the jump master to go. And I'm standing there like this, and I'm looking around his shoulders, and I see the ground going by, and I'm thinking I am about to just have a crazy heart attack because this is scary. And then the light turns green. They start yelling, go, go, go. Next thing you know, I'm in the air because I had practiced for 2.5 or 2 weeks on when they say go, I jump. And so it was just second nature. And then after that, it became fun. So that's my whole spiel on practice. The more practice you do, the more safer it becomes, the more familiar with the subject matter, the more relaxed you're going to become, even in a high stress situation. And trust me, some of those situations and given speeches or presentations can be really high stress. And it may not even be the number of people there. It may be the people there. You may be giving a presentation to upper management, to owners, CFOs, CEOs, COOs. And so those stressors can make you stumble and fall. When I first came to work here 5 years ago, my first round, one of the requirements was you had to give a presentation, and they brought in everybody. They brought in the president of CCC, they brought in the CFO, they brought in all the department heads. And so so when you come in to give your presentation on your second interview, you've got about 20 people in the room, and all of them are, you know, important people in the institution. And I think part of that is to see, do you have the skill to give a presentation and teach, and can you do it without freezing up when they throw you in a situation like that? Obviously I did okay. They hired me. So hopefully that works. Okay, advantages of using, see, we got about 10 minutes left. Advantages of using presentation visuals. It clarifies and emphasizes important points. It increases retention from 14 to 38%, reduces the time required to present a concept, results in a speaker achieving goals 34% more often than when the visuals are not used, and increases occurrences of group consensus by 21%. We've heard the phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, many times it is, and especially when using it to back up. The same thing with numbers and stats. Using correctly, they are very, very good tools. But like I said, I'm in an academic setting like we have here. These slides get to be a little boring, but I think that many times you're going to remember these little blurbs a little bit better than you would if you just didn't have them in front of you. Okay, guidelines to design English is hard tonight again. Guidelines to design presentation visuals. Limit the number of visual aids used in a single presentation. Limit slide content to key ideas presented in as few words as possible. Develop one major idea using targeted keywords that the audience can quickly understand, and choose an effective template and powerful images to reinforce ideas. Illustrate complex ideas in live and boring content. And many times it will be boring. Part 2, choose an effective color scheme. Choose an appealing font that can be read on screen easily. Follow the keyboarding rules for easy reading. Reflect legal and ethical responsibility in the design of presentation visuals, and proofread the visual carefully. Proofread, guys. And I'm gonna digress just a little bit as another anecdote. I was reading the local Okmulgee Times online this weekend. And I'm not sure if anybody proofreads their articles. It is really, really, really bad. Has anyone ever seen the movie Hot Fuzz? Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. KOTV gets pretty bad too. I can believe it. Adam, one of the greatest movies ever made. If you've never seen Hot Fuzz, you guys are missing out on a comedic masterpiece. It's about British cops. It's the same guys as Shaun of the Dead as well, which great. But there's a part of that film where the local newspaper, got to watch it, Tony, where the local newspaper is always getting stuff wrong. Yeah, I like you. I'm telling you, it is one of the funniest movies ever. I'll get onto that, but there was a part in there where the local newspaper, the guy was always getting things wrong, and so the guy's name was Sergeant Angel. And when they did an article on him, they misspelled it as Angle. So everyone walked around, "Good morning, Angle. Hey, Sergeant Angle." But this is what I felt like I was reading as I was reading online today, that nobody was proofing their stuff. It was just terrible. It was hard to read. Just the grammar and tone were all wrong, but then so was the punctuation and the way the sentence structure was put together. And it is really, really, and I also had that when I did CLD the other day. There was a couple of slides, I think there's one or two, I don't remember, one in particular, that some of the sentences just did not flow on one of the slides, and it was really awkward to try to talk about proofreading. Nice, Jessica. Yep, smoothing. Good. You now have smoothing to watch. But and that is a huge turnoff when there are these glaring, whether you're writing a paper or whether you're giving a presentation or your resume as well. Man, if somebody notices something wrong with your resume, it's just bad. It's a bad deal. And as somebody who's read thousands of resumes in his time, you have about 10 seconds of my attention to get through it. And if there are these glaring spelling, punctuation, just problems in there, it gets put into the trash pile. It always does. And the same thing trying to read these articles online. They were just terrible. So always proofread. If you don't, excuse me, do anything else, proofread, go back through. And when I say proofread, I also say get somebody else to help you proofread it as well. If you've written it and you're trying to read it, sometimes you're reading into it the intent and you're not noticing your own mistakes. Get somebody, wife, boyfriend, husband, mom, dad, smart high school student, whoever you have handy, and say, hey, read this for me, and help you out. That's my wife does it for me all the time. Plus she's very good at reading that stuff anyway. Proofreading just about everything. So, but yeah, always proofread. Sent to 4 different people to proof it. Absolutely. If it's really important, yeah, the more the merrier. Audience handouts. They should add value for individual audience members. Help the audience to remember the message. Serve as a reference for later consideration or action, and encourage involvement when space is provided for note taking or response. So just, some of these things. Okay, memorizing, and then Adam said he was a manager for a small store once. He got a resume was scribbled on the back of a Taco Bell receipt that only had 2 jobs for work history. I would almost hire that person just because that just takes, that takes an extra special something to do that. Here's my resume. Is this a Taco Bell receipt? Absolutely. Either they're the smartest person or the dumbest person. You never know. Let's try to get through this last slide and then we'll call it a night. Memorizing your speech. Memorize reminds me of a pastor. Exactly. Writes out a speech, commits to memory, and recites it verbatim, word for word for word. A manuscript, speaker writes out the entire speech and reads it to the audience, otherwise called a scripted presentation. Also, we see that with a lot of politicians. They have their speeches they give, and usually on a teleprompter. Impromptu, speaker is called on without prior notice. Tough. And then extemporaneous, speaker plans, prepares, and rehearses, but does not write everything down. That is my personal favorite. I write it, I rehearse it, I have it memorized, usually if I'm giving something very specific, but I'm not going there with note cards. I'm not going to read it directly off of paper. I'm going to have it all in my head, and then that gives me a little bit of the freedom to, as I get feedback from the audience, that gives me some freedom of movement with my speech. If you're memorizing it, trying to do it verbatim, or you're reading it off of a piece of paper teleprompter, you've boxed yourself in, and depending on your audience, you may not get the reaction you expect. So you've kind of got yourself in a bind. But once again, it's not for everybody. Some people there's a reason why there's different ways to do everything, and some people do better memorizing or reading it off of a prompter. If I do have notes, it'll be just highlights. I'll have highlights so I can look down at a card and go, okay, did I cover this? Did I cover this? Did I skip over this? So, and then one more thing, vocal qualities, activities ensuring efficient vocal qualities. That seems kind of clunky as well. Breathe properly and relax. Listen to yourself and develop flexibility. So you want to do vocal yoga. Articulation, smooth, fluent, and pleasant speech, and the pronunciation using principles of phonetics to create accurate sounds, rhythm, stress, and intonation. So all that's good stuff. It is 7:29. So what I'm going to do is stop my share. I'm also going to, if everyone remembers, when I stop recording, that's the official end of class. If you need to stick around for anything, that's fine. If not, I appreciate everyone for coming.